Every day, millions of dollars are secretly moved around the world by a shadowy network of criminals, financiers, and middlemen. Luxury items, including watches, are one effective method used to transfer value. In this video, we'll discuss how criminal organizations, terrorists, and spies use luxury watches to launder money and move illicit funds. Watches of Espionage is curated by a former CIA case officer with a passion for timepieces. On the WOE YouTube channel, we explore the intersection of watches and the military, intelligence, and national security. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be informed when we release new videos. $1 million weighs just over 22 pounds and feels heavier when stuffed into a backpack. A fun fact picked up during one of my first tours as a CIA case officer. While stacks of $100 bills are the de facto currency in the world of intelligence, cash is difficult to transport, not to mention the need for a plausible backstory in the event of discovery. It's hard to explain why you have $1 million in your carry-on when questioned by a customs official. This is why many spies and illicit actors increasingly rely on expensive but innocuous luxury items to move funds across borders, a factor enhanced by the significant increase in the value of luxury timepieces in recent years. Transporting a single watch from a brand like Richard Mille transfers the same monetary value in a much smaller package. The value-to-weight ratio of a Rolex, Patek Philippe, AP, or other premium brands is exceeded only by precious gems, making it easy to physically transport a watch across international borders. The vast, unregulated, and fragmented gray market makes converting timepieces into cash relatively straightforward. Unlike cars, gold, and diamonds, there is no oversight or regulatory authority for timepieces. For a criminal organization, being able to move $1 million with a single watch on a single wrist represents a powerful tool. The international financial system is heavily regulated and monitored by law enforcement and intelligence services to identify illicit activity. Transactions over $10,000 are automatically flagged, and international border law restricts the amount of cash an individual can bring in or out of a given country undeclared. By contrast, watches are a perfect medium for exploitation by bad actors. They are innocuous and liquid. Pawn shops, auction houses, and high-end dealers often turn a blind eye to these activities. Every major auction house has been involved in controversies where profitability triumphed over ethics. This isn't to say that auction houses willfully support money laundering, but rather that it is a frequent enough occurrence that certain watches slip through the cracks to the benefit of the criminal element. Money laundering is the act of integrating illegally acquired cash into legitimate financial institutions with the goal of concealing the illegal origins of those funds. At its core, money laundering is a three-step process, and watches can play a crucial role throughout. Placement. Step 1 is introducing illicit gains into the financial system. Using watches, a bad actor could ask a buyer to deposit funds from the sale of a timepiece into a legitimate financial institution. Layering. Step 2 is the process of moving those same funds through multiple transactions to conceal the origin. If you've purchased watches using illicit funds, reselling them one or more times distances the money from the initial transaction. Integration. Once placed into the financial system and separated from its source by layering, the final step, integration, is returning the funds, which now appear legitimate, to criminal organizations for personal use or to further illicit causes. Here's how it works. Imagine you need to move $1 million from the United States to Turkey. The logical choice is a traditional bank transfer, which would require you to deposit the funds in a financial institution. But if you're engaged in something nefarious, a wire transfer of this size would immediately alert the authorities and require an explanation for how you acquired the funds for both tax purposes and anti-money laundering enforcement. If you wanted to move cash, you'd need a 20-pound duffel bag, which is cumbersome and would likely result in scrutiny from customs officials, further questioning from law enforcement, import tariffs, and other complications. Even if you get around all of that, you've introduced a major security risk by carrying that much cash on your person and potentially becoming a target for petty thieves or rival criminal networks. So, what do? You could convert the cash into diamonds and hide them in a tube of toothpaste, or even conceal them in your body. But again, if caught, this cannot be explained away, and you are facing serious consequences. Instead, maybe you visit the Diamond District in New York and purchase a dozen Rolex and AP watches with a combined value of around $1 million. You use couriers to smurf the watches on commercial flights, each one wearing a watch on the wrist with a couple more in their carry-on bags. For the cost of a few round-trip tickets, the watches could be relocated to Istanbul relatively risk-free. Once you arrive in Turkey, you find a local watch dealer and offer to sell the watches for cash, or even a bank transfer to integrate the funds into the financial system, the first step of money laundering. Given the illicit transaction, you may lose some money on the sale, but this is simply part of doing business, and at least no one went to jail. The right shady watch dealer is happy to purchase the watches below market value and not ask any questions. Beyond this theoretical exercise, there are numerous real-world examples of organizations using luxury watches to move money around the world. In 2015, an investigation by the Drug Enforcement Administration revealed that Hezbollah, a Lebanese Shia terrorist organization, purchased large quantities of watches in Europe, which were then transported by couriers to Lebanon, where they were sold for cash. 14 million euros worth of luxury watches were reportedly purchased from a single store in Germany, thus evading international monitoring. This practice is so common that Dutch law enforcement has officially urged watch dealers to refrain from cash transactions. Several high-profile arrests of members of criminal networks in Spain, Netherlands, Romania, and Belgium revealed luxury watches as integral to the movement of illegal funds. Recent data indicates the value of stolen watches eclipsed $2 billion in 2024, with many of the stolen timepieces being used by transnational criminal organizations to move money around the world. If the secondary market value of timepieces continues to rise, this is only going to get worse. In 2022, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro found himself in hot water for reportedly selling a gifted Saudi Rolex and a Patek Philippe, netting him $68,000. Bolsonaro used a third party, or Smurf, to transport the watches to the United States, where he quickly found a buyer in a relatively obscure Pennsylvania mall. This technique, transferring the value in the form of watches from Brazil to the United States before converting it into cash to repatriate back to Brazil, is an example of money laundering by disguising an unreported diplomatic gift and converting that gift into a usable currency. Sketchy. As the value of luxury watches on the secondary market remains high or even continues to rise, it's reasonable to suspect that the use of timepieces as tools of money laundering and illicit finance will only increase. At WOE, we subscribe to the Use Your Tools ethos, where watches can be tools of warfare, intelligence, diving, communication, and even money laundering. What do you think about luxury watches being used for money laundering and illicit finance? Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and hit the bell icon to be informed when we release new videos. For even more, check out our website, watchesofespionage.com, for more content, as well as our collection of watch straps and other purpose-built tools designed for our community. Until next time, happy hunting.